here's Brody Brazil.
You know, I've been looking forward to making this video for quite some time because in it, I get to act like the old man and say, you know what, kids? When I was growing up watching baseball games, you had to pay attention to even know what the score was. It's not like today where the scorebug sits on the screen the entire time. It lets you know who's winning, what inning it is, the runner situation, the pitch count, all that stuff. Like back in the day, you actually had to watch, and it might take a couple batters in between of even knowing half of this information. So how did we ever do without this? I don't know. But it's been this way for about 30 years. Scorebugs have definitely, obviously, become the norm, but they've also evolved over the years, and that's kind of the purpose of this video. I wanted to go through all of the different teams' scorebugs across baseball and actually kind of, I don't know if it's grading them or rating them, but most importantly, evaluating them. So I've got all the different scorebugs, and we'll get to them in just a second, but think about everything a proper scorebug needs to display. Both teams playing, sometimes their name and their logo or one or the other, but also the actual score of the game, the count of the certain batter that's up right now, the inning that we're in, how many outs there are, what's the runner's situation, like first and third, second and third, bases loaded, whatever, the batter name and info, like their batting average or where they bat in the order, that's now usually on the scorebug. How about the pitcher's name and their information, like a pitch count or like the pitch that they just threw, what was its velocity or type? How about the pitch timer? That's now obviously become something that's critical to watching a game in the last couple of years. That needs to be on there. Not to mention special drop-ins, like when it'll pop down and say, hey, in this situation, the team you're watching is 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position. So all those little drop-ins, the elevators, they all need to be accounted for. And then, oh yeah, the logo of the network that's showing the game. You know they want to have their logo somewhere in there. So yeah, there is a lot to display in a very small space. What makes a good scorebug, in my opinion? A couple different things here I wanted to point out. A good scorebug can be properly interpreted in like less than 2 seconds. You should be able to glance up at it and go, okay, got it. I understand where we're at in this game. Or at a bar or at a restaurant from a distance. It's on mute, but you can kind of follow along with this game and probably what's happened based on the information solely on the screen. I also think a good scorebug doesn't change that much over, let's say, a decade. And what I mean by that is if you look at some of these, they will become familiar to you like you've been seeing these for a while. Good scorebugs are very efficient. You get comfortable with them, familiar with them. They don't need to change much over the span of years or even decades. I also think a good scorebug doesn't overwhelm the rest of the screen. Remember, you're putting this up on the screen for a majority of the game. Not really during replays, but during all live game action. So you don't want it to step on or interfere or become distracting. And I think last but not least, and I hope this is obvious, clean and modern is what I aim for. It's what I shoot for. Yeah, you can have classic ones. You can have different ones. They can make a statement so long as the scorebug is clean and modern, and like I said, efficient. I think that's all you're aiming for. Yeah, there can be different variations, and I'm fine with experimenting which position on the screen they go on, a bottom bar, a top bar, doesn't matter. So long as it complements what you're watching, I think that's obviously what we're aiming for. So now that you understand what a scorebug has to do and what makes a good scorebug, let's dive into different scorebugs across Major League Baseball. And the first one I want to begin with are the bugs produced by MLB Network. Now, that includes the Arizona Diamondbacks coverage, Padres coverage, and Colorado Rockies coverage. Scorebugs differ by the network who carries them or produces their games. In this case, it's MLB Network for those three teams. As for this bug, it lives on the bottom right of the screen. And again, that's kind of a choice too. Bottom right, top left, bottom left, top bar, bottom bar. There's a bunch of different variations here. I kind of like this one because it only uses logos and not necessarily like, you know, PHI or SD. I kind of like the logos in there. I think that's a good part of this. They don't waste much space in there. Everything's nice and tight and compact. And I mean, look at all the information. The pitch timer, who's on base, the count, how many outs there are, the inning, the score. It's all right there. I mean, yeah, there is a little bit of wasted dead area right there because I don't think anybody's name is actually going to carry all that long, but you also do get a batting average for the batter. You also get a pitch count for the pitcher. So overall, I don't know that this is the sleekest one, and it's got kind of the rounded edges here and a little bit of the 3D bevel type look. It's fine. It's clean. It's modern. It's simplistic. It does the job. I don't mind the positioning of where it's at here on the screen. So overall, and I mean, this is produced by MLB Network, so it's got a lot of resources. I think this one is just fine for those teams' coverage. All right, we'll move on to MASN, the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. They carry the Baltimore Orioles and the Washington Nationals. And I'll have you note, this was a game where the Orioles were wearing their City Connects. That's why the B and the colorful logo is not the bird and the orange that you're expecting. This is an interesting one. So this one sits top left on the screen. It also has kind of that see-through transparency, which you're kind of noticing right here. I'll draw my lines in between it. So it's kind of trying to take up less space, but in a way, it ultimately takes up more space by having those kind of in-between areas right there. It's also a little bit maybe like confusing or deceiving, like what's actually behind there. It's see-through. I don't know. I admire the effort here to make it modern and to make it look a certain way. And I think sometimes those two lines, maybe they retract up into here and then come out for more information. So maybe that's part of the graphics package. But look, overall, I like this. You've got the runners on base. You've got how many outs there are. You've got the count. You've got the inning. It doesn't waste a lot of space. This is very clear to understand the score. I mean, the score here pops out at you the most. Very easy to see. And that's important. The outs are important in bright yellow. You kind of can't miss that. I also like this, the player where they're playing defensively, what they're doing in the game. Cedric Mullins is 0 for 1, and Ross Stripling has 5 seconds left. You can see that pitch has already left his hands, and it's about to be crossing home plate. So this one, pretty good, and all these are good. Don't get me wrong here. There's no real bad ones, but I think this one is interesting because of the transparency between those lines. It makes it a little bit more disjointed, so to speak. I don't know. Maybe that's the only part I would nitpick on, but overall, what they do for MASN, I do think it looks pretty good. All right, we'll move on here to the Boston Red Sox, and you would expect that theirs is first class. NESN has been around for a while. Great ratings, great viewership. There's a lot of Boston Red Sox fans. And this one, I mean, look at this right away. So this one has all the same information, but it's not see-through. It's just one big square with a lot of lines. See, I love this telestrator, by the way. I can draw over all the lines. There's a lot of lines in there, but it kind of separates all the information. I think I would like the score to stand out here just a little bit more. I mean, it kind of gets buried in a sea of information, which, by the way, is top left on the screen. But there's not a lot of distinction between multiple colors. It's either the blue background, the white text, or the yellow that's most pertinent. So again, it's pretty clean and straightforward, and there is a lot of information. I love seeing what type of pitch was just thrown, and obviously the velocity. And you can see that Reyes is batting. Reyes is 0 for 1. He's the 6 hitter. So a lot of productive stuff there. There's not a lot of wasted space in this box. It gives you all the basic main information right there. So again, just to go back on this NESN one, I just think the score could stand out maybe a little bit more, and I think that would help viewers interpret the game better. They don't need logos. They don't use logos. They just use the 3-letter identifier. But, I mean, for example, look at this one on the Marquee Sports Network. Look how that pops out at you, like, instantly. It's a 3-1 Cubs lead over the Red Sox. How did I get Red Sox in back-to-back games here? But I do like that. I like the fact that it's black text on a white background. That really pops. You generally know the logos of those two teams. I mean, if you're tuned into the game, it's also probably going to pop up on your screen, or you clicked on this game. I don't know that we need to use letter identifiers anymore in 2024. I think the two logos probably says everything. I also like how this is nice and tight here and compact. Everything kind of gets its own square, and those squares are not oversized. There's not a lot of dead space. I also like the font size. Now look, see all this area right here? There's not much dead space in between. I think that's exactly what I was saying about some of the other graphics packages. Like there was, too much here in these lines, the pitcher info line, the batter info line. I really like how this fits everything here. The 5-hitter, Bush, 1 for 2. Crawford's already 72, probably 73 pitches now into the game. So it gives you everything. And I don't know how much this one animates or would reveal, like, 4-seam fastball or sweeper or whatever. I think in this case, this box right here changes out with the pitch timer. So it'll have in there, 8 seconds left to pitch, and maybe it's yellow. By the way, let me show this off. Maybe it's yellow when it's 12 and then turns red when it comes down to the final seconds. But I like it. Again, simple, straightforward. Go back to yellow on my pen. That's a really good one right there. That one checks a lot of the boxes. Okay, Root Sports, they cover the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners. And this one's different. It does live bottom right on the screen, but it's also more of that really long rectangle. Instead of being closer to a square, it's nice and long, which I guess offers the opportunity to put somebody's first and last name, or like the pitcher, how many pitches they're at, the count here. This is a little bit of a different take on it. I don't dislike it, but again, we get into all that dead space right there. And what more can you do to minimize dead space? We've got a pitch count. I don't know if we need to see the word pitches on there. Again, sometimes that's taken up a lot of space. All this stuff down here is fine. It's probably a little bit too far down on the screen, maybe to have the score up here, right? And then all that other information down below. Just saying, I guess I should be drawing on it up here. Maybe instead of all that, maybe that should be at the top and just flip-flop things. And I know there's animations and elevators that come off this, so it's impossible for me to really show this to you and have you understand what the graphics package is all about. They also sometimes just put more batter information even on top of there, but generally like it. It's a little bit different. Again, I like the logos instead of having to use the team identifiers. Root Sports, pretty good. Okay, Sportsnet Pittsburgh. Obviously, this is a one-off here. They only do Pirates games. And the Pirates colors are black and yellow, or is it black and gold? But I digress. The point is, that's a big, just black rectangle up there. And it's turned red here because the pitch timer has got under the 8-second mark, which I can't appreciate, that giving you a sense of urgency. But when this is all black, it just really kind of fits in to the rest of the screen. Now, your other choice, I suppose, is yellow or a goldish color. So what if, like, if you saw that on the corner of your screen, if it was all gold? That might stand out too much. So I understand the conundrum they're in here. Maybe a little bit more transparency in some of this, potentially, might fix things. But generally, I like it. They don't use logos. Maybe they're trying to conserve space by using the names. I'd rather see logos. I like how that information is grouped and that information is grouped. I like here having what is right now the pitch timer, but also I imagine that's the pitch count for the pitcher in terms of how many pitches they've thrown. Matt Chapman's the 5-hitter in the lineup. It's got his batting average there. Overall, it's fine. I think this one probably just needs logos, maybe needs that pop of color to it, some transparency, some type of play other than being just a straight black rectangle in the corner of the screen. Okay, NBC Sports, who, you know, I might watch a lot of their games. I might work for this network, but in all reality, I promise you I'm not just saying this. I've always liked the NBC Sports package. And you also need to understand that this kind of graphic look right here, this goes beyond just the baseball coverage of the RSNs. This is the national look of NBC Sports. And so this look, they've put a lot into this. And the different font choices here and the way things lay and the 3D look and the colors, they've done a lot to this. And remember I said before about how, you know, Pittsburgh was all black? Well, this one's all black too. And it's actually all black, I think, here because these team logos change. But the rest of this is all black. But at least, yeah, there's a little gray accent here. And this bar on the end is gray. I promise you, I'm not just saying this because who employs me. I really do like the NBC Sports graphic package. Now, can I point out one thing that I've seen that is absolutely hilarious to me? It's a game where the Phillies are hosting the Pirates or vice versa. So you've got the Pirates logo, and then you've got all drawn like the Phillies P. You see what we're doing right here? P-O-O-P. I do want to point that out. Like that, what can you do? It's sports. That's the way these are laid out. The logos are on each side. If this logo were over here, then you wouldn't have that poop problem. But that's the way it happens sometimes with the NBC Sports look. By the way, they have this coverage for the Oakland A's, the Giants, the Phillies, and the Chicago White Sox. Again, I like it. So it's top left on the screen. It's another long rectangle, which, you know, is different from what the norm kind of seems to have evolved in, more of a square shape than a long rectangle. But it gives you all the information here on the screen. We've got the pitcher, we've got the pitch count, we've got the batter in the lineup, we've got what they've done, Lamont Wade Jr. 0 for 2. It gives a lot of breathing room here to the score. And again, I picked this, maybe not the best example because the Pirates background is black and so is the Giants, but I like the fact that, if it is like hypothetically the A's, then all of this is green, and if they're playing the Cincinnati Reds, and all of this is red. So usually it adds that team color of pop in the top corner of the screen. Runner situation, innings, outs, this animates, I know, between the pitch timer and also the velocity of the actual pitch. I know the pitch type pops up there on the screen. And then what they do is they have this elevator area for other information to pop down from that score bug. So again, all of this, I promise you, I'm not just complimentary. This one checks all the boxes. I'm actually in a spot where NBC has had this one for 5-7 years now. And as I said before, typically they don't change much over 10 years. I'm at the spot now where I feel like they might change this. They might update it right around the corner, but I kind of don't want them to. This one's classic. It's simple. It's clean. Maybe they could modernize it a little bit more transparency, but overall, this is one of my top graded score bugs. All right, let's get to the Dodgers here. Sportsnet Los Angeles does their broadcast, and this one I found like surprisingly simple. Bottom right on the screen, but I mean, where's the pitcher info? Where's the batter info? I mean, here's the amount of pitches. We don't need the word pitches on there. Like a P would do just fine. It's got the count right there. I imagine that some of this changes to velocity right there. But in 2024, I guess I just expect a little bit more. Maybe I screen grabbed this from a time when it just wasn't showing. But we're in the top of the third here. Runners on first and second. Nobody out. Look at that's Shohei Ohtani at second base. This isn't giving me. I don't know who that is. Well, I do, but I'm saying if I were just watching the game and tuning in, I don't know who that is. I do know who that is because that's Chris Bassett, of course. I love Chris Bassett. But the point is, like, if I'm just tuning in and all I see is this, I don't really have a tremendous read on what's going on with the baseball game. I do really like how, and I'll color them in there, I do like how those bases glow. I think that's a cool effect. If we know it's top three, then we don't need that little dot there. We also don't need a third out. Right? Because there's either no outs and none of those are lit, right? Or there's one out, or there's two outs, and if there's three outs, the inning's over and we're going to commercial break. Did you ever think about that? Probably not. We also have here a situation where we got the logos and the team identifiers. So crazy enough, in one of the biggest markets in our country, it's kind of a score bug that maybe just seems like it's missing the mark a little bit. And again, I didn't really do this to grade all the score bugs, just wanted to look at them. I think that one right there might not be up to par with everything else. Okay, SNY does the New York Mets. I like this one, with the exception, and I think you're getting predictable here with me, of the obvious. Like, there's a lot of dead space right there, right? And I do understand that the pitch timer is kind of floating out in the middle of nowhere. It's top left. It doesn't take up a ton of information on the screen. But even right here, I feel like between top five and the count, there could and should be something there. I like the pitch amount, the counts down below. Oh, I take it back. What the batter's done, 0 for 2. It's an 0-2 count, and he's 0 for 2. That doesn't bode well for Bader. I like the fact that it's just logos. I also think that maybe same color in the team and the actual score it's not confusing, but I really like what the Cubs had. They had the white background. I don't have a black pen here on here, and then the different color text on top of that. I think that's probably the way to go, and maybe this 6 and 0 could be even larger. Sorry, Giants fans, I don't mean it like that, but I'm just saying I think the score could pop out a little bit more on this one. As for everything else, it uses multiple colors. It uses a blue background. It uses a white background. It's obviously got the team colors. It's fine. I just think dead space in here, either make it a little bit more transparent or fill that space up, maximize that space with something else. Okay, the Yankees on Yes Network, obviously that's the team-owned network. They've got a really good score bug, can't lie. It's got more of the NBC long rectangle shape. You've got team colors in there, not just for the team, but also for the batter in this case. Nestor Cortez is 60 pitches in. I think these scores pop out. I mean, that's pretty clear to see. My eyes are drawn to the score, first and foremost in this game. Again, though, we've got a team logo and a team identifier for both sides. Probably don't need all that, if I'm being honest. The bases kind of have that weird like 3D thing, but I also like the way that they utilize the bases being bigger with the inning kind of fit in right there. It's got the count. It's got how many outs. And again, it doesn't need that third dot. Really doesn't. And in this graphics package, the pitcher's name gets replaced by the type of pitch and the velocity in this little lower box right here. So I think that fits well on the screen. I think it just does a nice job of where it's at. Overall, I give this one high marks. It also uses that grayish color as a contrast off of the background. And so kind of like with dark seats, I mean, look what it does. It really makes that gray stand out right there. So that's a pretty good one from Yes Network. Okay, Sportsnet in Toronto. Yeah, there's a lot of Sportsnets. This is the network Sportsnet that covers all Canadian sports across Canada. They go bottom right here on the screen. They go very blue heavy in all the different shades. I got to say I like that for the Blue Jays using their colors. You've got the light blue, you've got the dark blue, you've got the gray, and you've got the white. I think this one looks sleek. Only one problem, a lot of dead space in there. And Barrios' name and the pitch count and Garcia and what he's done 0 for 1, it's just so far apart from each other. The score, now this is a weird one, right? The score's right in the middle. Usually the score is up at the top or at the bottom or far right or far left. The score is kind of dead central right here, and then all the other information is right around it. Pitch timer right there, inning, I guess I should draw it up here. Pitch timer right there, inning right there, count right there, how many outs. Yeah, this one's good. Again, it's these two bars. I mean, hypothetically, what if you just cut off all this information right there and made this super simple? That's a really good bug. Now, just to rebuild on top of it, maybe a way to consolidate all of that information differently. I think, and even this one showing the Sportsnet logo, which is, by the way, just that huge white square with the SN logo. I don't know if there's a way to cut that down or use up some of that space. It feels like that's pretty bold and upfront. But the bottom line is if you could just fix up that area right there, I think that's the only real improvement I would make. Okay, Bally Sports. Now they cover Atlanta, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, the Royals, the Angels, Miami, Milwaukee, Minnesota, the Cardinals, the Rays, and the Texas Rangers. They cover a lot of different teams. And so this is a pretty prominent one, and yet it is very different. It takes up the whole bottom part of the screen. This is a bottom bar more than it's a score bug. Technically, it's a score bug, but it's a bottom bar on the screen. And we used to see it on top of the screen in the old Fox Sports Net days. It was on the top, and then they started moving it to the bottom. A lot of NBA games have this bottom bar that goes across. So let's evaluate this one because the majority of the games regionally across the country are seen this way. I do like it, how the pitcher and batter are depicted with just the logo and the teams here as part of the score. Right? It keeps everything like here's the Philly guy, here's the Reds guy, here's the game information, boom, you're done. Now, is all of this valuable? Is that annoying to have other scores pop up or the lineup keep being rotated through? Does this kind of feel like a news channel? Does this stuff cloud your brain? Is this overkill? It's not my place to say. It's for everybody's interpretation. Let me know in the comments section below what you think. But it's interesting, right, that just sits there the entire game. Like this never really detaches. All of that is always there throughout the game. You also have kind of a tiny Bally's logo, but then you have like it's Bally's Cincinnati, right? So that's confusing because then you have a Cincinnati logo there, and then you have a Texas Rangers logo there. Well, it's because what's on the ticker right there, they're talking about Nathan Eovaldi, it's all Texas Rangers related. So to have another Reds logo right there with Bally's is a bit confusing. I don't know. It feels like a lot. It feels like a bit much. I'd rather see, and I do like the bottom bar. I'm okay with that. Maybe it's less intrusive on the screen, but in terms of all that extra information, it's a lot for a score bug. So you can be the judge of if you like it or not. Okay, we've done it. We have graded the MLB score bugs. I'm going to give myself a little check. Actually, I'm going to cross out my face for just a second. But I appreciate you checking out this video. It's something I wanted to do for a while, and you let me know what you think. I mean, this is an interactive video, I'm hoping, and you've made it here this long. I appreciate you for watching. Let me know what you think. Did I get it right? Do you agree with me? Are there some ideas, some concepts you'd like to see across baseball, a different way of doing things? We'll see how long this lasts. Maybe in the next 10 years, they look completely different. But for right now, this is kind of the tradition. And you've made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Oh, forgot to do that. Thumbs up. I just keep drawing checks. Thumbs up down below. That'll greatly help me, this video, and this channel. And by the way, you know I'd love to see you back here next time, so make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. That's the way I can for sure know we'll see you again.